Good morning. Welcome to Faith in the Morning. Something good is going to happen to you today, so expect miracles. Thanks for joining me today. Faith in the Mornings is to help you start your day with faith and encouragement, and that's exactly what's going to happen today. Let's get started with our 2023 Faith Family Confession. You can find the description on social media or the Faith Plus app or the description on the show notes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Say it with me. Say, I'm the salt of the earth. I'm the light of this world. Jesus said it, so I believe it. I'm a carrier of the glory of God. Today, I will experience the extreme goodness of God. Today, I make myself available for God to show his goodness to others through me. Today, I am increasing in influence. Today, I will see the goodness of God in my life. Today, something good is going to happen to me, so I expect miracles. Once again, go with me to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. Thank you once again for joining me today. Over the last number of weeks, we've talked about the importance of understanding God's plan for your life and going forward in it. And we've talked about knowing the plan, sticking with the plan. And this week we began to talk about praying out the plan. Proverbs 20, verse 5 says counsel. And that word counsel is also the word plan. In the heart of man is like a deep water, but a man of understanding would draw it out. So we've talked about this week how the plan of God is on the inside of you. And we reference a parable what Jesus talked about in the Gospels. And it compared a person's heart to a storehouse. The King James calls it like a treasure or a treasure house. There are things God has put on the inside of you. That's for your call here, in this planet, in this life. A man of understanding will draw out what God has put on the inside. God has put some things in you. And sometimes you're distracted by the giftings and the talents of others. You go, well, I wish I had that gift. I wish I had that talent. I wish I had that ability. Aren't they talented? Aren't they gifting? Why wouldn't God give me that gift? God has given you your own gift, set of gifts, talents, and abilities. It's on the inside. You got to pull it out. One of the things I referenced yesterday about the importance of praying out the plan, but especially praying in the Spirit. 1 Corinthians 14 says that when you pray in the Spirit, when you pray in an unknown tongue, you pray out mysteries, divine secrets, plans, and purposes. There are times when you pray in the Spirit, you're praying out plans about other things, but there's times where you're praying out God's plan for your life. I still remember a number of years ago when I was living in Texas, a friend of mine that I work with came to work and said, hey, Carrick, I just had this really good time in prayer this morning. I spent extra time in prayer and I felt like I prayed out the next season of my life. And so I just logged that in my mind. I said, well, cool, good to know. A couple months later, she was no longer working where I was, but began to go. I remember reach out to her, hey, what's your plans? And eventually, within a few months, she was living in Hawaii, doing stuff that was always in her heart to do, something that she greatly enjoyed. And I always look back and said she prayed that out that morning when she came to talk to me at the office. You can pray out the next steps, but you can't be distracted by the giftings of others. You have to realize that God has a gift for you on the inside. There are giftings, talents, and abilities, and there's a plan on the inside, and you have to take the time to pray it out. And so you do that over steps. You take time, and it's not always just one day. It's sometimes several days in a row. You take time to pray it out. You consecrate yourself to the plan of God, meaning there are times where you don't have the time to binge a show on Netflix or whatever. You take that extra time to pray. Also, I still remember, before we go, I'll share this, even though we're a little bit over time, that I remember one of my professors in college. He taught my entrepreneurship class. And he says, I get my best business ideas while I worship. And so he just knew that when he would go to church and worship, God would talk to him concerning his business. He had positioned himself to hear from God. Position yourself to hear from God. Pray out the plan. Expect to receive God's direction for the plan. And know that God has a plan for your life. Before we go, I will get into this maybe tomorrow or next week. Say, what God has put on the inside of me is wonderful. Come on, say out loud, put it in the chat before we go. Say, what God has put on the inside of me is wonderful. One more time. Say, what God has put on the inside of me is wonderful. Have a great day. Know that something good is going to happen to you today, so expect miracles. God bless.